Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon. RHOC Vicki Gunvalson's near-fatal experience with deadly infection. Real Housewives of Orange County star Vicki Gunvalson opened up about her recent health scare. She revealed that she had a nearly fatal infection that could have taken her life if it weren't for her boyfriend, Michael Smith. Here's what happened. Vicki Gunvalson opens up about near-death experience. On Monday, August 26, the RHOC star spoke about her medical emergency on My Friend, My Soulmate, My podcast. Vicki's boyfriend Michael tagged along to help her tell her story. The Bravo star explained that there are still many things about the ordeal that she can't remember. "There's a lot of hours missing in my life because I got, amnesia," she said on the podcast. Earlier this month, Vicki Gunvalson said that she was headed to the hair salon as usual. Then she went to her office, and there seems to be about an hour or two that is missing from her memory. "I had a client coming in and she said I was talking gibberish, and I wrote an email out and the email didn't make sense," she said. The client Vicki was speaking to was a retired emergency room doctor. They immediately noticed something was off and alerted Olivia, Michael's daughter, to the problem. He believed that Vicki Gunvalson could have been having a stroke or some other serious medical emergency. She continued, "I don't remember anything and Olivia took me to the hospital. She was initially misdiagnosed with a sinus infection and discharged from the hospital. Her boyfriend noted that she'd had a sinus infection a few weeks beforehand, but it didn't seem normal. She was worse off than she usually would be if it was just a sinus infection." The Real Housewives of Orange County star took her prescribed antibiotics and her health improved before she traveled to Europe. After hearing she previously had a sinus infection, the ER doctors kind of ran with that diagnosis, Michael said. RHOC star had a 10 to 20% chance of survival. At the time of the ER visit, Michael was in Arizona. His daughter told him he needed to get back home urgently. When he got back, he found Vicki Gunvalson in the bathtub. "I walk in and she's pretty much passed out," Michael said. "I grabbed her, pulled her out of the water, put her in bed. The doctor said she just needed to sleep, so I put her in bed and she slept literally 14 hours straight. Then, when she woke up, Vicki was disoriented. Michael was still worried that something else might be wrong and brought her back to the hospital. She had a massive infection," he said on the podcast. "It was actually sepsis, but it was pneumonia. And what happened, and I'm no doctor, but when they explained it, is that when your body is fighting that big of an infection and that dangerous of an infection, your whole body attacks it, which affects the brain and everything else in your body because your body sends everything it has to fight it." Now, the RHOC star is still recovering and revealed a medical professional initially estimated that she had a 10 to 20% chance of survival. Michael said he is staying at Vicki's place until she's feeling like herself again, noting that the situation was dangerous and scary. Vicki Gunvalson shared her thanks to her guardian angels, which included Michael's daughter Olivia. She said that she probably would have died if she was home alone when the health episode occurred. "I don't remember much, and that's the trauma of the brain," she said. "It's very similar to a stroke or PTSD where the brain kind of just goes into quiet mode. There was just a litany of things that could have happened and gone wrong, and it didn't." Vicki Gunvalson, the OG of the OC, has always been a lightning rod for drama on the Real Housewives of Orange County, but nothing could have prepared her for the terrifying ordeal she recently faced. The usually boisterous, champagne-popping insurance queen found herself battling a life-threatening infection that nearly took her out of commission permanently. It started innocuously enough. Vicki, ever the jet-setter, had just returned from another one of her infamous vacations. This time, it was a lavish trip to Mexico, where she indulged in sun-soaked days by the pool and nights filled with margaritas and laughter. But as soon as she returned to the OC, Vicki began to feel something was off. At first, it was just a slight fatigue, a persistent headache that wouldn't go away, and a vague sense of unease that she couldn't shake. Being Vicki, she pushed through it. There was work to be done, contracts to close, and of course, the ongoing drama with her castmates that needed her full attention. She brushed it off as just being tired from travel, maybe a little dehydrated from the tequila and sun. But then things took a darker turn. One morning, Vicki woke up with a fever that spiked dangerously high. Her body ached in ways she'd never experienced before, and a searing pain in her chest made her gasp with every breath. Still stubborn as ever, Vicki tried to soldier on. She was a powerhouse after all, no time to be sick. But when she collapsed in her kitchen, unable to catch her breath, she knew something was seriously wrong. Steve Lodge, her then-boyfriend, was the one who found her. His usual calm demeanor turned to panic when he saw her slumped on the floor, her skin flushed with fever, and her breathing shallow. He rushed her to the hospital, his mind racing with worst-case scenarios. At the hospital, doctors worked quickly to stabilize Vicki. She was slipping in and out of consciousness, her fever still raging, and her oxygen levels dangerously low. After a battery of tests, the diagnosis was grim. Vicki was suffering from a severe bacterial infection that had rapidly spread throughout her body. The doctors explained that she had likely contracted it during her trip, possibly from contaminated water or food. It had gone unnoticed and untreated, quickly turning deadly as it spread to her bloodstream, a condition known as sepsis. Sepsis is a life-threatening condition where the body's response to infection causes injury to its tissues and organs. It can lead to shock, organ failure, and death if not treated promptly. The doctors were clear. Vicki was in a fight for her life. As she lay in the hospital bed, Vicki's world became a blur of IV drips, oxygen masks, and beeping monitors. She was too weak to speak, but her mind raced with thoughts of her family, her children, and the life she had built. For the first time in her life, she felt truly powerless. The woman who had always prided herself on being in control, on running the show, was now at the mercy of her body and the doctors who were fighting to save her. News of Vicki's condition spread quickly among the RHOC cast. Even those who had clashed with her over the years, Tamra Judge, Shannon Beater, and Kelly Dodd, put aside their differences as the gravity of the situation sunk in. They reached out to her family, offering their support and prayers, knowing that despite the drama, Vicki was a cornerstone of their group. Without her, the dynamic of the OC would never be the same. Vicki's daughter, Brianna, a nurse herself, flew in immediately to be by her mother's side. She knew all too well the dangers of sepsis and was terrified of losing her mother to this silent killer. Brianna kept a constant vigil, holding Vicki's hand, urging her to fight, to stay strong for her family. For days, Vicki's condition remained critical. The infection had wreaked havoc on her body, and there were moments when it seemed like she might not pull through. But in true Vicki Gunvalson fashion, she refused to go down without a fight. Slowly, with the help of powerful antibiotics and the unwavering support of her loved ones, she began to improve. Her fever broke, her breathing steadied, and the color started to return to her face. As she regained consciousness, Vicki was overwhelmed with emotion. She realized how close she had come to the edge and how much she had taken her health for granted. The experience was a sobering reminder that even the strongest, most invincible people could be brought to their knees by something as simple and as deadly as an infection. After several weeks in the hospital, Vicki was finally well enough to go home, but the ordeal had changed her. She was no longer the indomitable force she once was, at least not in the same way. The experience had humbled her, made her more aware of her own mortality, and gave her a newfound appreciation for the life she had built.